Hey everyone, Cole here with Classic Mini DIY, and today's episode is about putting the engine in the engine bay. So let's get to it. Today's episode is brought to you by you. That's right. Every single episode created on Classic Mini DIY is made with the help of our patrons and our long-term part sponsor, 7 Mini Parts. If you want to see more mini stuff and more videos in the future, please consider supporting the channel on patreon.com/Classic Mini DIY, or by checking out some of my awesome merch like t-shirts, stickers, and all sorts of other really cool stuff at merch.classicminidiy.com. Alright, let's get back to the episode. Now, like I said, we're going to be putting the A-Series supercharged engine in my engine bay. Now, a lot of you probably remember me saying that I was going to be running the engine outside of the car before I put it into the engine bay so that I could work out any leaks, anything like that, if I see any. And the plans for that have changed a little bit. And now, even though I made this really cool engine run-in stand with a subframe provided to me by the Gentleman Motor Racing team, Kev Richardson. If you haven't seen his channel, check it out. He has incredible content, really cool guy. He actually chopped this up and sent it to me over the ocean via airmail and allowed me to be able to build a run-in stand sitting on casters, these wheels right here. But I'm not going to be using this, because with the EFI setup, with all of the things that I have to connect to the car, I think it's going to end up being more of a hassle to get it all set up outside of the car, only to have to disconnect it, repeat all the stuff that I was before, just to put it back into the engine bay. And realistically, getting the engine in and out of the engine bay, if I have any sort of really bad problems, is not that big of a deal. I've joked and I've said that I never want to pull the engine out of the car again, which is true. I don't want to do that, but in the event that I have to, it was not too bad. So this beautiful engine stand, well, beautiful by my eyes, is going to go into storage until I build my next engine. And I do want to say again, thanks so much, Kev, for sending this over, because I honestly wouldn't have been able to do this. We don't have spare subframes sitting around here in the US. Let's get the engine out of my workshop on this engine hoist, and we're actually going to drop it in today. Well, that was a little more exciting than I anticipated. So I've got the engine in place. As you guys saw just a minute ago, I went ahead and slowed that down because I do show you guys when I make my mistakes. As I was loosening the hydraulic release dial, my hand slipped and I ended up loosening it too much. Normally you loosen it very slowly. I mean, I've done this 10, maybe 11 times so far, not on just this car, but on other cars as well. My hand slipped and that dial ended up getting released. So it released a lot of the pressure in the hydraulic, allowing the engine to drop really fast and suddenly. It is one of the reasons you never get underneath an engine hoist while you are doing this. Thankfully, I know not to do that. But as a result, the left side of the engine collided with the regulator box on this side of the car. The regulator box is fake on my car. It's actually just a bypass. It used to be for cars that had generators like this Mark I originally. And I had been using it as just kind of a look-alike. The cover on the front is what actually broke. I mean, literally just shattered. It fell into a million pieces. It's all underneath the car right now. But it goes to show you that even if you've done this quite a few times, you can still make mistakes. So it's really important to take every precaution you can when working on a car. Make sure that you have all the safety equipment. Make sure that you don't do anything stupid. Because even when you do everything right, sometimes stuff happens. Anyway, got out of this really lucky. I went ahead and connected the lower engine steadies, the 2 engine mounts on the bottom. Those can be lined up with a punch. So I usually take a punch like this and pull it into the hole and kind of wiggle stuff around to centralize those. They can be a little bit of a pain to line up, but once it's all lined up, now you can see the engine is free in here. It'll wiggle. But I also connected the CV joints at the same time and had the hubs disconnected on the side so that they could droop a little. And then you take the CVs and slide them into place, lock them into place. And don't forget, it does need a C-clip inside there. Otherwise, the CVs will not lock into place. So now that all that's out of the way, we can start actually putting stuff on the engine here. So sorry about the birds. I just decided to have a long conversation. So I'm thinking, start putting the exhaust in, start putting in some of the ancillary items, and start just hooking things up. So let's start putting stuff together. I'm going to let you guys just time lapse and enjoy the views of attaching all of the extra items here. I tell you what, it's actually pretty crazy how much smaller this starter motor is than the one that we had on there before. The other one used to extend like way out here. It probably weighed 3 times as much. Pretty wild.
You got, oh, don't you know? You got emotion. You got, oh, don't you know?
All right, so now the pump is primed. I've added some oil here. We got to connect up this feed line right here. We'll get that connected up, and then we're going to spin the engine over using the starter. Obviously, you can see all of my electronics are disconnected aside from the starter so that I can spin the engine over and over again. And I also have my oil pressure line hooked up, which you can't quite see in the video, but That connects up to my mechanical oil pressure gauge, and that is going to allow me to read the oil pressure, and hopefully we're going to get some pressure in here and we don't have any problem. All right, moment of truth. Let's see if we can get some pressure in here. Oil pressure, boys. All right, and so much to my excitement, I have oil pressure, and it's good, solid oil pressure, which is incredible. So what that means is that all that is going to be left is installing the distributor, which is not here yet, and we need to install the whole intake system here, the throttle body. Now, in my case, I do need a small spacer, which is what I'm waiting on right now from Stuart. So we've got oil pressure. I'm going to do a little bit more electronics. I'm actually going to put the throttle body on here, not fully cinched down, but tight enough to where I can mock up some of these wires and mock up everything else that's over here so that this can get tidied up, because as you can see, it's a pretty big mess right now. We got our LCD screen. Man, this is incredible. So let's start buttoning some of this stuff up. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap up this episode. We got a ton of stuff done. As you can see, the engine is looking more like an engine and less like, it's just an amalgamation of parts. We got lots of electrical hooked up. We got the supercharger in. I'm pretty excited. We got oil pressure. And aside from that one little mishap, there were not many issues at all. If you guys have any questions about what I did in this episode, feel free to post them in the comment section below. I took a less technical approach on this episode, so I hope you guys don't mind too much. I was ready to get this stuff in here, so I wanted to just kind of crack on and get things moving. But I do want to give you guys every opportunity to ask any questions you might have because there was a lot covered in this episode. So I do really appreciate all of you tuning in for this episode. And until I see you guys again, enjoy those minis and motor on.